And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us. And great to have a brand new guest. Will be a really new guest, I think, certainly to the US audience, the War and Posse. The Brits who follow us, I'm sure, will recognize him well, and that is Paul Thorpe. Paul, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Great to have you on. And I've obviously seen you involved in a lot of the Tommy demonstrations, and we'll get onto all of that. But people can follow you. There is at Thorpe Watch is on X on Twitter, and Paul Thorpe Official is on YouTube. And you've had some great interviews with Ben Habib, Gerard Batten. We'll get into all of those, all the chaos that's happening in the UK political scene. Started off by now a good friend of Tommy's, Elon Musk. Lots to discuss, but Paul, can I ask about your background? You've got a really intriguing, mixed up background from boxing in sports, and then with watches. What, you got a watch fetish? I mean, fill us in on your background before we get into what's happening now.
Well, basically, I'm a former professional watch dealer, 4 years in the business, there or thereabouts. Very professional background. I did have 2 stints outside of that arena. One was in professional football. I worked at Fulham Football Club for 4 years. Yeah. And I also had 4 years in professional boxing as a kind of liaison between the boxing followers and the promoters. That was way back in the 80s. But I've had an interesting and varied career.
How did you get into sport? How did those doors open up?
Well, my friend, a very good friend of mine, who I used to go to football matches with many years ago. He worked at Harrods, and when Mohammed Al Fayed took over at Fulham, he was looking for someone that knew the club well, supported the club, knew the supporters, and my friend who worked at Harrods Estates recommended me. So the next thing I knew, I was working at Fulham, my boyhood club, and it was a dream come true. So I had 4 years there, saw 3 promotions, won 2 championship medals. Yeah, good time. Not as a player, I might add, but as part of the team, as part of the staff.
Oh, that's great. Sounds really different, certainly background, but
very different.
Okay, so moving on a little bit more to where we are, I want to talk about the 1st of February and to make sure people have their train tickets. I understand King's Cross is now shut for a number of weekends, so trains coming into King's Cross, that could be an issue from the north of the country. But maybe how you see Tommy. I love engaging people. I first met Tommy 16 years ago. Him and Kevin, actually weirdly in a church, I met them. But it's always interesting to see people's kind of perception of him, because especially in the UK, the perception is often through the mainstream media who seem to hate Tommy wherever you look, whichever journalist it is. But what about you? How did you kind of become aware, and how did you begin to get involved?
Well, I've had my eye on Tommy since about 2010, and I've watched him grow. I've listened to his message, always with a degree of minor skepticism. You read the mainstream media, you listen to the news, and you think, I think this guy's a good guy, have a good message, but is there more to him than meets the eye? And I just couldn't find anything. I looked, I dug, I tried to find evidence of all the bad things that people were saying and just couldn't find it. As I came towards the end of my working career, I'm now retired, if you can call it that, I decided that now was the time to speak up, that I had a lot of things on my chest I needed to get off. And, I can see the state of our country. And I was interested in getting involved in the movement. I was interested in meeting Tommy, but with a big caveat that if I ever found any genuine racism, any genuine Islamophobia, and by that I mean a hatred of Muslims just because they're Muslim, or any sign of the real far right, which I oppose just as much as I oppose the far left, I would be out. It wouldn't be for me. And I have to say, Peter, that since the first time that I ever met Tommy, which is only in April last year, and I've been in his company a number of times since, and the people he surrounds himself with, what I found was not what I'd hoped to find. It actually exceeded what I'd hoped to find. What I found was actually Stephen Lennon is somewhat different to Tommy Robinson. Stephen Lennon is actually a very kind, very tolerant, very well educated, very switched on, very fair individual. So I like Steve more than I like Tommy, the real person. So it's been an eye opener, but I was delighted because I didn't want my illusions shattered. I didn't want to meet him and find that actually this isn't the guy that I thought he was. But the pleasant surprise was he's even better than I thought he was.
I think a lot of people use an R word, the media, sorry, use an R word, and that's racist to connect. Actually, another R word that comes to mind is rogue. He's a likable rogue that actually causes kind of mischief because he wants to chase after something he believes he should do and is right.
Yeah, I mean, he's the archetypal disruptor, isn't he? You know, he's a disruptor and he's not perfect, you know, but show me a man that is. Nobody's perfect. Has he been a bit cheeky in the past at times? Sure. But I grew up with a lot of cheeky lads who went on to be very successful business people. I went to school with an MP who was very cheeky at school, but he made it to the House of Commons. So, you know, look, at the end of the day, there's nothing in Tommy's background that would even slightly warrant the amount of abuse and unfairness that he's labelled and thrown at him. It's just totally ridiculous. But I think slowly but surely, the public are waking up to this. They are realising that this isn't the bogeyman that the media like to portray. But not before time. It's long overdue. And I think Elon Musk is going to play a big role in that.
What was your thoughts waking up 1st of January and seeing that Free Tommy Robinson pin post? I thought I was still asleep.
I'm going to be honest. It didn't. It was a pleasant surprise, but it didn't shock me because we do have contacts in America. We do have people that we speak to, and we do have people that are well connected. So I wasn't surprised. I was delighted, but not shocked. I think it had been coming. I think there's more to come, a lot more. And I said, you know, some weeks ago, before the end of 2025, Tommy's going to be having breakfast with Elon Musk and maybe even Donald Trump as well. That's for sure. And the mainstream media here and the government better get used to it.
No, I agree. I think it will be in the Oval Office. That's where the most famous political prisoner in the world, bar none.
Yeah.
But so step back a little bit. Did you have any interest in kind of politics, current affairs, campaigning? Were you just kind of involved in your own world, or were you interested in certain issues? Where was your head at before all this?
Well, I've never liked bullies. I've always been against bullying of any type, no matter who it is. And I think one of the first things that interested me about Tommy was the bullying. You know, I see this guy being bullied by the police, by the state, by the authorities. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that he was being bullied. I mean, the mortgage fraud conviction for me was very telling. I mean, back in the 80s and the 90s, with those self-certified mortgages, exaggerating your income was a prerequisite. I remember my bank manager encouraging me to lie on my self-certified mortgage application. So when I saw him going to jail for not even being guilty of that, just being I mean, it was his brother-in-law that actually exaggerated the income. Yet they came after the man that had just lent him some money to get the mortgage, a totally victimless crime. Yet he ended up in jail. Now, this for me was the first sign of state bullying of state persecution. And it didn't matter to me whether it was Tommy, a black guy, a white guy, a Muslim guy. I don't like that sort of bullying, because today it's someone else. Tomorrow it could be you. It could be anyone. So that was really a massive eye opener for me. And then I kept my eye on him ever since. And of course, we've seen numerous examples since then of him being persecuted, chased, harassed by the state, by the media, and they've never been able to let it go.
I want to get on kind of more on Tommy's imprisonment and get your thoughts on that, especially when you compare his sentence to rape gangs. There was one, actually, someone got 11 years for 8 count of rape, so that's a year and a bit they get per rape, which is nearly as much as you get for showing a film. But your involvement in why do we need these kind of big demonstrations, these gatherings we've had? Surely we have a Conservative Party that would want to actually protect our well-being and do what's best for the country.
Well, we don't. We've had a uni party now, haven't we, for the last 15 years or so, 20 years even. Why are the demonstrations so important? I prefer to call them events. I don't really see them as demonstrations so much. The behaviour is always impeccable. I think for me, it's important because people like myself have managed to bring a different demographic to the table. I'm very well known in this country and also in the United States and across Europe as a serious businessman, a businessman that has many friends of all communities, of all races, of all creeds and colours. I have no biases. I certainly have nothing against people that don't look like me, and I've proven that over many, many years. Some of my best friends have come from the Muslim community in the business world. So it's important that people like myself that had a reputation, at least I hope I had a reputation of being a fair, honest, good person, coming to the table and saying, look, guys, you know what? This is not just about football fans. This is not just about people on the so-called far right. This is people, ordinary mums and dads, nans and granddads, people with no sinister agenda, coming to the table and explaining that these are our concerns. They're valid. Please listen to us. And more importantly, come and join us. And I think if you look at the demographic at the last 3 events, at least, it's changed dramatically. Gone are the days when it was, 400 or 500 football lads. Not that there's anything wrong with the football lads, most of them are as good as gold. But now this really is a family gathering, a family event, and very, very, very peaceful. And there were more than twice the number of arrests at the pro-Palestinian march on Saturday, more than twice the number than the combined figure of arrests at our last 3 rallies. Bearing in mind there are also 3 times the amount of our people that were present. So when you look at the behavioural differences, we're in the league of our own.
No, I know, and Jeremy Corbyn, I think, is now has to go and speak to the police about his involvement. So you've got those at the top of the British establishment are in trouble for their involvement in things like that, and it's so different on our side.
Yeah.
But you mentioned family, and I been to many different rallies of Tommy's, but the last, certainly the summer one, the one before May, you forget actually how many there have been and what are the dates. But it was a fact. You had families coming with their children,
Yeah.
you had buggies, kids having a great day out, and it was like a kind of like a carnival atmosphere.
Yeah.
Coming together, similar, I guess, to a Trump rally, people coming together like-minded. I'm sure you saw that as you were organizing these and seeing things from the platform.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got to say, I can't take any credit for the organisation. I just promote on YouTube. But what I can say is I think that the event in London in April last year, the St George's Day event, was a turning point. The police, that was my first ever event that I attended. And the police turned up expecting trouble. There wasn't any. I believe the police instigated trouble that day, not necessarily, let's not say deliberately, let's not say they instigated it, but they were expecting it and they were ready for it. And to be honest, they were guilty of raising the temperature of the event. But I think they learnt that day that they had the wrong crowd, because this wasn't groups of men looking for a fight. This was families, mums and dads. And I think they would have looked back at their own behaviour that day and thought, do you know what? We got that badly wrong. And thank goodness from then, their attitude towards us has changed. Our attitude towards them has been exemplary. In fact, when we leave our events, we tidy up afterwards. We thank the police for their service and go home peacefully. And I think they've learned. I think they now recognise that we're not troublemakers. This is an entirely different time, an entirely different group of people, and we should be treated with respect. And to be fair, they have done that, and we've returned that compliment. And I sincerely hope it remains that way.
Yeah, they're always the amount of stewards that these events bring together, hundreds and hundreds,
Yeah,
making sure things are looked after and managed. Whether it's first aid, whether it's in case any tensions break out, whether it's clearing up the rubbish at the end with bags and bags of rubbish. And I know Richard, who's been on the show a number of times, is often engages with the police,
yeah.
and there is that respect, I think, from the police. So you couldn't ask for a better event in any city in the UK, really.
Well, I think the hierarchy at the police now, and I've met the police liaison officer, lovely, lovely gentleman, really nice guy. Um, they know that we want our crowd to behave. They know that we're putting in every single effort. We're going the extra mile to the nth degree to make sure that there is no trouble and that our people behave themselves impeccably. So they can see, they know, and I think they've come to terms with that. They respect us for that, and long may it continue. As I said, I don't see any problems among our crowd whatsoever. Look, when you get 100,000 people in one relatively small area, you're always going to get someone that's maybe got, I don't know, mental health issues. They might have had one or too many beers. There's always going to be the odd moment. But our stewards deal with it politely, professionally. They move them away from the crowd. And the police actually don't have to get involved. We police ourselves most of the time. But they're there as backup in case we need them. And we thank them for their service and for their time. So that is our ethos. You know, we're there to support law and order, to support our police officers, and not to give them a hard time.
Yeah, I agree. And the issue we have with the police is not necessarily the bobbies who are there looking after him.
Yeah,
And Tommy has seen this at many demonstrations. I remember even in Parliament, we had him in St. Lord Pearson, and the police there were thumbs up, thumbs up. They would have got selfies if they were allowed to.
yeah,
It's the rank and file that are good. It's the top, and that's the two-tier policing that we have seen that was highlighted at the end of August, and that I think Elon Musk first became aware of what was happening in the UK and started highlighting. What we're seeing today is probably from those initial demonstrations, events, frustration.
yeah.
Elon saw that and has now shone light on the absolute failures we have in the UK.
Yeah, 100%. I think Elon's had his eye on the UK for a long time. And, look, I hate to say this, but I think the Metropolitan Police and probably police services up and down the country have suddenly realised that this crocodile that they've been trying to pat on the head every Saturday is never going to be a friendly crocodile. And I've said it for months now. They need to understand whose side they're on, whose side we're on. We're not asking them to take sides, but what we are asking them to understand is that we stand for peace and harmony and unity. I don't think the other side do.
Yeah, I agree. Why should I mean people have I've been with people who've been out every single one of these. Um, Back in goodness, even back what 2016 or whatever, 2017, when Raheem was doing the free Tommy whenever Tommy was arrested before, and they build and build. You've got this great atmosphere, and people may be thinking, I was at the last few. Do I really need to come? But I think the current situation we find in terms of publicity and spotlight means actually this is possibly the most important one for people to be at, to show their support not only for Tommy, but against the injustice that we are seeing from above in our government and the upper echelons of the police and the legal system.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every event is more important than the last. And this one is super important because, we have Tommy unfairly jailed in solitary confinement. We have a number of other political prisoners who deserve our support just as much as Tommy. And it's important that we're there. I would say to all people, it doesn't matter if you like Tommy or if you don't. It's not about Tommy. It's about our rights and who should and shouldn't be in jail. And as I've always said, today it's maybe your enemy, but tomorrow it could be you. So we must never allow this bullying to take place or go unchecked. So this is a huge event. And I'll be extremely surprised if the crowds this time are not larger than they were for any of the last three. And my appeal to everyone will be not only to come along, but to make sure that you bring your best behaviour and your best friend as well. Let's double the size of the crowd. Let's show the authorities that, we have a big, large, peaceful voice and that we're a force, metaphorically, to be reckoned with, and we should be listened to.
No, I agree. People should contact friends and arrange to meet people.
Yeah.
For me, that's one of the huge benefits of these events, coming together and going for a drink after, going for food after. It's that we're all over the country and therefore don't often spend physical time together. And this is a great opportunity to do that. And every single event I've been at, I've always been able to hang out with people after and make a whole day of it.
People have made a lot of friends. I think the one thing that comes out of these events is a togetherness. People feel refreshed. They feel rejuvenated. They feel that they're not alone. A lot of people out there feel that they're alone. They're in a bubble. Maybe their family or their friends aren't on the same wavelength. But these events give people the chance to meet others and to almost, if you like, cleanse their mind because they feel a lot of pent-up frustration. And this is why our movement is so important, because we aim to keep the lid on tensions. It's all about keeping the lid on people's anger and their frustrations, and that the way to address those anger and frustrations is not like we saw in the summer last year, is not getting out on the streets and throwing things, smashing up shops and attacking buildings. That is not the way forward. The way forward is to register to vote, join the movement, come along, make friends peacefully, demonstrate peacefully, and when the time comes, make sure that you're registered to vote, make sure you've signed up to the pledge, because that's also has a major role to play in what we're doing. And, you have got power. It's in your pen. We don't get to use it very often, but when we do, make sure that you have the capability to use that power. We will only win this through the ballot box. It can be done and it will be done, but it won't be done through apathy or laziness or thinking that this is down to someone else. We all have a role to play. We all have a job to do. It's time we do it.
Yep, this is our country, and it's up to us to make our voices heard, and don't give the police an excuse to go in heavy-handed. They're there with their riot shields. They're there with their riot vans. Do not give them a reason, and there's no reason why any of us would want to do that. You mentioned the pledge. Fill us in on the pledge. Frustratingly, I was unable to be there for the signing. Because we're just 3 weeks in President Trump isn't. Well, by
Yeah.
the time we will have put this out, recording this a few hours before President Trump will be in the Oval Office. But what we've seen at the beginning of this year, he hasn't actually been in that position yet. But so tell us a little bit more about the pledge and why it's important and why people should sign up and be involved in it.
Well, the pledge is basically, for one of a short example, it's the modern day Magna Carta. It protects our rights, our freedoms, our British Constitution. There are 5 very key points, but there is a longer version available over at thepledge.org.uk, and it is a pledge to our nation. And the plan is that if we can get 4, 5, 6, 10 million people signed up to the pledge, we can go on to their support, we can use their support, we can help point them in the right direction, and we can have a political say. Even though the pledge is not actually political, we can influence people, we can influence parties to implement our requests and our requirements. And we can do that as the people. Tell me a political party that wouldn't like 10 million votes, but they're only going to get our votes if they guarantee and pledge to take care of our country and our future and our culture. So we can put the ball in their court and say, look, we can offer you this. What are you going to pledge us? I think it's a great idea. We've got some great people behind it. Ben Habib recently signed it, which was a real plus for us. There are some other big names that have signed it as well, and we will just keep going. And it's growing organically without a penny being spent on it, and it's growing beautifully.
Yeah, it's really exciting when that happens. Let me just bring it up. There it is. The pledge. You can go, and those are our pledge is to stand for freedom, equality under the law, real democracy, and family. It's to build a peaceful, prosperous, and patriotic society, to reclaim our nation's identity as Christian traditions, cultures, and values, give courage and hope to the British people, and resist tyranny. And you can sign it there. And I would encourage everyone to do that. Play your part, put your voice into this great initiative, and make it happen. But
Yeah,
Ted, the conversations you've had with people, because you think this is a simple idea. Surely it's been done. And actually, it doesn't really. Often the simplest ideas are the best.
yeah. I think that, look, it's a long time coming. I think that those 5 key points that you read out there, what's not to like? If anyone doesn't like those, then maybe they're living in the wrong place. So I think that it's been a long time coming. It is a simple idea, but it's an idea that people have adopted and that they seem to like and respect. And more importantly, Peter, they can understand it. It's in layman's terms. It's very simple to understand and to get. Who wouldn't want a peaceful, united country to live in for their children? So, yeah, we're confident that it's heading in the right direction.
Tell us about some of the interviews you've had, because it fits into this conversation in terms of politics, in terms of where we're going, in terms of some of the divisions in our society. Gerard obviously was former UKIP leader, MEP. I had the privilege of working with him for 6 months back in 2019. You had Ben Habib, who has walked away from reform. You've got that fraction. Give us your thoughts as you've talked to some of these key leaders. What have your thoughts been on where we are politically?
Wow, what a great question. I've described it as like a British political Netflix series. And we're only in episode 1, Peter. And there are about 5 or 6 series. So we're a long way from seeing the bigger picture develop.
I can't believe that Harry and Meghan get their own Netflix and Tommy doesn't. I mean, sure,
exactly. Oh, this has got a long way to go. This has got a lot of panning out to do. I can't believe that as a regular businessman, a boy from South London, I'm sitting around a table with people like Gerard Bann and Ben Habib and
Yeah.
having private conversations with them. These are great guys. I mean, Gerard is a man that should have been much more heavily involved in British politics for me. We missed out big time. I hope we don't miss out with Ben, because Ben is another leader, another man that is able to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, between classes, the working class, the middle class, the upper class. He's a man that can bridge gaps and build bridges. And that's a rare commodity in politics, I think. So we mustn't miss out with Ben. I think that Elon is going to have a huge role to play. I think that Tommy is going to have a huge role to play, not necessarily politically, but culturally. I'm not sure if Tommy has real political ambitions.
Yeah, when Elon Musk's dad says he's going to be prime minister 2029, I was like, yeah, of course. I don't know, but hey, I'll cheer that on.
Yeah. I think realistically, look, we'll know when the real changes started. The mainstream media will start to talk about Tommy in a different light. That is slowly starting to just peek through. It's just a little ray of sunshine. Basically, because I haven't really got any choice. They've run out of lies. You can only call a bogeyman for so long without presenting some real evidence. And what they're asking now, they're asking the public to believe now, is that Tommy's irrelevant and meaningless convictions of the past, for example, mortgage fraud, pale into insignificance to the battle that he is fighting and has been fighting pretty much alone for 15 years or so. So when people talking about rape gangs and about the abuse of our children, but the bloke that's talking about it has got a conviction for mortgage fraud, it's like, and what's that got to do with the message? It's like, can you not be a hero if you've got a minor indiscretion in your past? Of course you can. Look, this is something the public need to understand. The very people that the mainstream media attack, abuse, and demonise on a daily basis are the very same people that stood in the trenches, that climbed in planes, flew in our skies, and got on boats and ships and crossed the English Channel in the 1940s to save our country. These are the people. The old saying, Tommy. I've forgotten his name now. Tommy Atkins.
Yeah.
Tommy Atkins. Tommy this and Tommy that. But when the drums begin to roll, Tommy's the hero. And this is where we're at now. These people in their little bubbles, living in their safe little enclaves in Surrey and in Islington or wherever they live, are now starting to wake up and realise that we actually, our people, the people that get out there, where we are, I don't include myself in this, but these are the modern day heroes. These are the ones that are standing up for everything that our country needs.
Yeah. No, and I've been impressed when you see Trump and what he does, that he does things because he thinks it's right, not because an opinion poll tells him or a focus group tells him. And you're looking for that same here. And Nigel, sadly, has failed that litmus test by attacking Tommy. But then you look at Ben Habib. He Pakistani born, so understands that a clash between Islam and we have in the West. Businessman, very good speaker, knows cultural issues and economic. But even Rupert Lowe, MP, has done extremely well in his short time. You think you see people like that as leaders who lead by example because they have convictions, and that's what we need more of in this country.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with Nigel. I don't know what's gone on with him recently. You know, look, he's a very experienced politician, and he may well know better than me. I'm sure he probably does. But his rhetoric of recent weeks has been moving further and further to the centre ground, and that's not what we need. Um, I've spent time with Ben, and he really is, for me, he is a leader. He understands the problems. He's brave enough to speak out about them. I think Rupert Lowe is the same. Is Nigel the man to lead us to a victory? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, there's a lot to play out yet. Will Trump have an influence on Nigel? Hopefully. But I get the feeling that Nigel is, for want of a better expression, a bit of a controlled opposition in my view. I think he's more of a Tory at heart than he is a real reformist.
Well, we've had all this talk about, well, should Nigel bring reform and merge with the Conservatives, with the Tories, and think, well, why not? I thought he was trying to do something different.
Yeah.
And now seems to be going back to what he knew. And that's telling, that conversation, that's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, look, I don't want to. People have said to me, "Oh, Paul, you know, you're causing a split by talking about this stuff." Well, no, you know, look, it's Nigel that has brought all this up. It's Nigel that has been saying wrong things, in my view, or has been weak. Let's just say he's been weak in certain areas. That's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's no one's fault but Nigel's. Nigel caused the rift where Tommy is concerned. Tommy doesn't really speak about Nigel, and he hasn't done. He's certainly never really had anything bad to say about him, at least until last week.
But no, prior to the election, Tommy stood on the platform and told people vote for reform because they are the only option.
Absolutely. And you just think that, look, another thing that I was brought up with is loyalty. I find it hard to respect people who are disloyal. And you should always remember the people on the way up, that you met on the way up, because you're sure as hell will meet them on the way back down. So, you know, I think Nigel's let himself down a little bit recently. Can he put that right? Hopefully. Would he be my ideal choice as leader of reform? No. Does he represent our best chance at the next election at the moment? Very possibly. But like I said, look, there's a long way to go.
Yeah, at the moment, but there's a long way to go.
Very long way.
Can I just finish off on, obviously you've interviewed a large number of people and done videos on issues that are currently happening to try and inform the public of how you see it. But maybe just end off touching on how you find the space in the media, because we're in a brand new time where social media drives the agenda. We've seen that with Elon Musk. What Elon Musk says at the beginning of the week, the BBC, Channel 4, ITV, Sky, they had to cover the grooming gangs because social media. And your YouTube channel is great. It's got great reach.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you've found the media space and that ability to disseminate information.
I find it very humbling, to be fair. You know, I mean, I think, look, people say that social media, that we're influencers. I don't really like that term particularly, but there is no doubt that we do have an influence on people. So I guess we are influencers. So I take what I do, I take my job very seriously. I'm very aware that there are people that watch me on a daily basis that might be sad, they might be angry, they might be alone. They're going to be coming from all different areas, family-wise, mental health-wise, personality-wise. So it's important that we try and keep a balanced view. It's important that we try and do a really good job for them. I'm very proud that my channel has done so well. I think my strength is probably that I'm relatable. I think I'm relatable. I don't pretend to be anything that I'm not. I'm I'm at my happiest when I'm with the people. I don't want to be on a stage particularly. I don't want to be taking load of plaudits. I'd rather be out in the crowd, shaking people's hands and thanking them for what they give to us rather than asking for it the other way round. That's my take on social media. It's been a marvel for us, really, isn't it? Because without social media, where would we be? You don't see people like me on Question Time. It's never going to happen. I haven't got the right look. I haven't got the right accent. And they're never going to take you seriously. I have appeared on the BBC once when talking about watch theft, like luxury watch crime. And they made a complete mess of it. The BBC days, they made a complete mess of that interview. That is actually on my channel. Maybe go and have a look at that and see how they tried to kind of twist the knife a little bit. But I ended up actually being able to put them straight very quickly. I've never been invited back. No surprise.
Well, you never know, Paul. You could be on the Question Time whenever Tommy is elected Prime Minister. I mean, who knows? We live in crazy times. So, Paul, give us your perspective and what do you think Tommy's manifesto will be? And they probably just look at this just to highlight Tommy's book. That would be the manifesto by Tommy and Peter McLaughlin. Peter McLaughlin, who was one of the earlier journalists to talk about this and doesn't get the recognition, and is now back on Twitter and X. So have a look at that. Get hold of manifesto to get to know what Tommy's vision is, I think, for the country, if you've been asleep and haven't realized what it is. Paul, really appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to Saturday, the 1st of February, midday there in Victoria, and encourage people to get your tickets, even plan ahead, stay over with friends, in London, or get an Airbnb or something, but make sure and play your part to be there.
Please come.
Celebrate together. Please come.
Please come.
If nothing more, you'll get to see Paul. So come on, that's a bonus, isn't it?
That'll turn them off, that will.
But no, Paul, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective on the first and on the pledge. It's really exciting. So thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.